Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Adjustment for October 3rd, 2024. Thank you, Mr. Corbett. And would you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry for the pause, folks. I had to get my gavel. When things get slow and Mr. Corbett gets edgy, I just let him
I can pound it.
handle it. That's right. All right. Welcome. And before we proceed with the evening, let us introduce ourselves, starting to my far left, please.
No, speak into the microphone.
Sorry. Jason Dragani. Michael Donlin.
Richard Tripp.
Crystal Morin, Secretary.
And Lynn Perkins, the chair.
Craig Corbett, Vice Chair.
Donald Burgess, member.
Jim Dietzel.
Bob Wentworth, Building Inspector.
And we have Lucy Peoples is in the back with us, taking our notes for the evening, and she's our clerk. Just a couple of announcements. In the event of an emergency, please exit to the rear of the room. Don't use the elevator. Audio, video recordings are in process, and the scheduled termination of this meeting is 10 p.m. Just a notice, the second case for the evening, which is 24-130, represented by Patricia Panciaco on behalf of the Stabile Companies, that has been postponed till the 17th. So if you're here for that, or if you are remote for that, just understand we will not be hearing that case this evening. And before I make that an absolute, we need a motion on the board for to table that till the next meeting.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to table this to the next meeting.
Mr. Corbett
Second that motion.
has that motion. Mr. Burgess seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. That's granted. And so we will plan on seeing that application in 2 weeks on the 17th. Correct, Mrs. Peoples? Correct? Yep. Very good. Thank you. All right, next up we have case number 24-129, which is
That's the one.
Amber Ragnarsson, member of the Raymond and Derry LLC.
Oh, that's this one. Okay.
You do. Would you be familiar with our protocols?
Vaguely.
Okay. Well, so we'll have you read your application in its entirety as it's presented. We'll give you an opportunity to use your own enlightening in your own words. We'll barrage you with questions, and then at some point the public will have an opportunity to engage as well if there's anybody support or opposed to this. Okay?
Okay. I do have, before we start, I don't know if it's okay, in your packet, I had noticed when I went through things yesterday that there's one of my cryptic drawings that...
Okay. Could I get you to lean to the microphone a little bit?
Is this better? Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. So there's a page, it's just the second floor, it's a drawing, and I thought the whole thing was second floor, but the middle is not. So I made several copies if you guys want an update, or I don't know if it's even germane.
Why don't we see where we go,
me an
and the
update.
board will vote on taking that information in as you go along, okay?
Hello, my name, can you hear? Gosh.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Amber Ragnarsson, and together with my partner, we own 16 Crystal Ave. We're seeking a variance to convert a 4-unit building from 2 commercial and 2 residential to 4 residential units. The 5 conditions for the variance are as follows. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest because it would provide much-needed additional housing opportunities, especially first-floor accessible housing, while maintaining the historical character of the building and neighborhood, and is in line with the multifamily abutting properties. It would also benefit the community by maintaining the mix of residential and non-residential uses within the district. Number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed because the property will maintain its predominant character and will be aligned with the existing surrounding multifamily residential properties and commercial properties making up the mixed-use district. It is a legacy property in the community, and it helps anchor the rural and historical feel of this side of Crystal Ave. The central business district zoning is established for the purpose of, quote, encouraging appropriate uses to occur within an area of the community where the predominant character has been and will continue to be historical, municipal, cultural, residential, and commercial. The spirit of the ordinance will be maintained and observed as there will be no changes to the exterior character of the building, and although this individual property may not be mixed use, the mixed uses of the district and area are maintained. Number 3, substantial justice is done because the general public would benefit more from additional housing, especially accessible first-floor housing, than it would from empty vacant commercial spaces. The general public and community has not benefited from a building that has vacant commercial spaces for over 5 years despite active marketing efforts. Instead, providing much-needed housing and housing that's accessible for those needing direct first-floor access would provide substantial justice. Number 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished because this variance will put 14 Crystal Ave in with 2 direct abutters that are also 100% multifamily, as well as support the other residential properties. Also, by being in the central business district, where there is a mix of commercial uses like the abutting Rite Aid, as well as Dollar General and the Strip Plaza across the street, it maintains the diversity of values that are inherent in the mixed uses of the district. Further, we believe there would be no diminishing impact on surrounding values, as there will be no change to the exterior character and architecture of the building. I would imagine values would be impacted positively, as there would no longer be vacancies nor long-term for lease signs posted on the street. Number 5, literal enforcement of the provision of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship due to the physicality of the property not being desirable to commercial tenants. The unique characteristics and special conditions of the property makes it virtually impossible to attract and maintain commercial tenants, as proven by the over 5-year vacancy of the spaces despite active marketing. The entrance and egress of the parking area are on the sharp curved section of Crystal Ave with very poor sight lines, making entering and exiting into traffic dangerous. The commercial units are located in the back of the building and not visible from the street. One commercial unit is at the end of a narrow driveway on the left side of the building and is completely invisible from the street and the parking area. And people would have to park on the opposite side of the building and walk around 2/3 of the building to gain entry. Additionally, the interior layout of this 1900s farmhouse-style building is disjointed, and most commercial tenants are looking for open concept. All of these unique characteristics and special conditions make it undesirable for commercial tenants, thereby creating an unnecessary hardship. As such, the reasonable use of these spaces would be residential, not commercial. Granting the variance and allowing for the 2 commercial units to be residential would not only eliminate the vacancies that do not benefit the community, the district, or anyone, but would more importantly provide first-floor accessible housing, which is what is more beneficial in today's environment. Thank you for your time.
Okay, care to share with us in your own words, outside of the scripted 5 criteria?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do you wish to say anything in your own words, outside of the scripted 5 criteria?
No, I submitted a letter with some back history, but we feel strongly, again, with the needs of housing and the long-term vacancies that was going on here, that it would be the best use for the town, for the community, and for the building. But that's,
You did purchase this property this summer?
yes, this past May.
And what was your interest in the property?
Investment.
Okay. Was it investment to have commercial property there, or was it investment to try and have the mixed use? What was the backdrop to your purchase?
It was at the time, the gentleman was willing to sell it, and the price seemed fair, and we figured, okay, let's go in and buy it and see. Once we went in there and discovered that it's been vacant for that long, and it was that difficult to find tenants. And seeing that the prior owners with Halco, and before that, I think it was Country Cupboard, it's always been like an owner occupied. And, you know, and it made sense at that point in time when they did that, when it was a gift shop, and the person who owned it was also occupying it. Same with Halco, they owned it and occupied it. And once things didn't work out and they went to rent it, they just couldn't find any commercial tenants. But our intent, of course, was for investment.
Was the property on the real estate market, or did you approach these folks?
No, it was not on the market.
Okay, so you endeavored on this as, on your own?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you know about the history of it and the absence or the vacancy history of it?
Yeah, we're going through the town records and looking at the tax cards and tax information. Since 2018, it's been vacant. And speaking with the prior owner, he was saying the same thing, that, you know, I've tried to market this, Ralph Valentine tried to market it. There was somebody that come close, I guess, in adult daycare, and there was just so many, it was so much money to try to bring this 1900s building up to whatever the code was at the time for adult daycare, that it just didn't materialize. And that was after it was vacant for, I think, 2.5 years. And then after that, it just remained vacant, and they had for lease signs and just could not find a tenant.
Let me digress back up, or anybody else on the board wish to ask any questions? No? Okay. Mr. Tripp?
There you go.
As always, I have a question, but it's more of there's a request for 2 variances, and the first one is section 165-33B5. And then the next one is 165-33B5 B triple I. Well, since the second variance is actually contained in the first, I was wondering what exactly we'll be approving.
So the first one is the multi-residential use only being permitted as a mixed use with the non-residential. But then the second one is what happens that residential units have to only be on the top floor. So now if there's no commercial use, we need relief on that second one. So it's really just a 2-parter in technicality. But a vote, a no on one of them would kill both of them. So it's just combined as one.
All right, thank you. That's that clears up, you know.
The sneak peek of my finding of fact.
Say again?
Thank you.
Oh, and keeping with your finding of fact, well, good. All right.
Mr. Donlin, anything?
So any of the other conditions within 165-33B5 are still being enforced?
So right now, what
Can
it
you
would
speak
be,
into the microphone?
yeah, so right now what it would be, based on this proposal, is because it doesn't meet all of the criteria of B5, which means you need to have commercial use on the first floor. It needs relief of that. But then there's very specifically a section that says a residential unit is not permitted below the second floor, so that also needs its own relief. But because that's what they're asking for, it technically needs relief under both of them at once.
Okay, so say if we were to look at 165-33B5 B II, or just I, the minimum of 800 square feet per unit is still being enforced.
I believe that one, it meets that criteria because we only have to hit the III as the separate
Okay,
variance.
so
So I and II should both be good.
okay. And the thing being limited to 1 or 2 bedroom units, that is something that the variance does not pertain to.
I believe so, but Mr. Wentworth would have to check me, but I think that one's also covered.
Like I said, we had a similar issue at the last meeting that I didn't understand what it was that we're approving, so, you know,
You had the combined of a large sign, and you
Yes.
also had the electronic messaging.
yes.
Yeah.
But there's other conditions within those,
Yeah, that one could have been separated because it was two separate ones.
Yeah.
Because of how this ordinance is written, it has to be combined
Okay.
as just one vote.
Anybody else?
I have a, one question for you, Mr. Chair. I was kind of piggybacking off the chair's questions originally of the history of the vacancy of the commercial units. Since you guys took the ownership of it, have you tried marketing it at all, or what efforts have you put into any type of commercial?
No, because we had taken a look at the building and seeing the vacancies and all the efforts that were made ahead of time, and speaking with the realtor, speaking with the prior owner, and just walking around and seeing the way that it is, and just the vacancies in and of itself. And, you know, being an old historical 1900s building, I think the tenant pool for a commercial will be so small because of how much money and expense it would take to retrofit and to bring it up to whatever is necessary depending on what type of commercial tenant. And knowing that there is such a need for housing, and I want to bring attention to as well, you probably already know this in the packet, and I'm looking up there because the front of the building, it is first floor. It's first and second floor. And it's been that way for 10 years, same tenant, she's still there. And so that's a front, the closest to the road. And so there's already first floor presence. Yeah.
Anything else, Mr. Corbett?
No, that's all for now. Thank you.
Let's go to staff and see if Mr. Wentworth can shine some light on any of this, or can reflect understanding of code enforcement as you're filling in for code enforcement. Mr. Wentworth, you have anything there you'd like to share with us?
The applicant is requesting a variance to allow the conversion.
can you speak in the microphone, please?
Sorry. Convert the building from 2 commercial and 2 residentials to 4 residential units,
Okay.
basically making it a completely residential building.
All right.
Me?
Mr. Burgess?
Yes, please. Have you gone to the town of Derry and Economic Development Department and talked to them?
Yes, I know Beverly well. I also own property. I own 21 East Broadway, and I've worked with Beverly over the years for tenants, and she's been very helpful. And so on this property in particular, no, I have not gone to Beverly.
That would be a good source of possible,
Oh, yeah,
Tenants.
absolutely. Yep. We just see the challenges inherent in this building in and of itself. Just, you know, to go down that path and have more long-term vacancies, you know, just waiting for somebody that this building may fit. And, you know, it's just evolving over time, you know, for all the reasons that I say, it's just not that desirable for a commercial tenant, especially in consideration of the surrounding commercial area.
Did you approach this at all with the idea of doing commercial of anything or not?
At first, yes, yeah, and in the more that we looked at it, and the more we said, my gosh, there's just no visibility, and it just, you know, and then finding out how long it's been vacant, didn't realize it was vacant that long, and then realizing it after digging into the research, after purchasing the building, and said, okay, you know what, let's just go before the ZBA, because it's, again, better servicing the community, especially by providing first floor housing. I mean, there are people who just can't make it up to a second floor with stairs. And, you know, the CBD having, you know, that, the way that it's written in the ordinance is second floor only. And that really cuts out so many people for housing. So we thought, you know what, this is better use of this building in the community, and will lessen the amount of vacancies, because there's, you know, clearly a big housing shortage. So I figured, okay, you know what, let's just pivot and see what we can do here.
And I do understand that, and
Yeah.
often when we see purchases similar to this, I think that people misread, which is you're seeing you're bringing to us a regional discussion, which is not always significant to the town's plans and what they would like to see occur in orchestrating the ordinances relative to what you're asking relief for. And so the regional discussion, and historically for Derry, has always been an issue, and where they're looking for housing regionally doesn't always work well for the community and its strive where it's heading.
Yep.
All right, I have nothing further. Does anybody else have anything? Mr. Dietzel
No, thank you.
and Ms. Donlin?
Yeah, how many in the proposal, I'm assuming, if I'm understanding this correctly, what you have as the first floor residential with the second floor above is to remain as it is as one unit. The second floor is to remain as it is as a residential unit, and then how you have it chopped up with the orange and the purple
Yep.
is gonna turn into the 2 first floor units, so 4 units altogether.
Correct.
And then, how many bedrooms are represented as a whole in the entire building?
Currently, there's 2 two-bedrooms. The 2 existing residential units are 2 bedrooms. And depending on the layout, the choppy one, on the left, the orange, as you call it, which I call the commercial left rear. Well, actually, I should just put my glasses on and call it what it is. So commercial unit number 2, which is orange. That one there lends itself to 1 bedroom, just because, again, it's disjointed and it's mainly hallway. The other one, the purple one, which is unit 1, which is the old Halco area, that one there lends itself to 2 bedroom. So the total count would be 2, 4, 6, 7 bedrooms in the building.
So on the first floor again, where you have this in the orange, it's 1 bedroom
Yes.
is what you're trying to achieve.
Yes.
And then the area where the kitchen, and I know I'm repeating, but I am having a little hard time hearing this evening. I want to make sure I understand this
Is it
for the
me?
record.
Okay.
But the old Halco space you're anticipating a 2-bedroom.
Correct.
And what's the square footage of those areas?
Yep, so if you see one of the pages, it's 918 square feet. If you look at this.
In the
Page.
Halco space?
Correct, yep. And then the other one, 609 plus 380, is 989 square feet. 989.
So I see one paper that you have that says 380 square feet. Is that the 1-bedroom proposal?
Correct.
Okay.
And it goes together with the 609. If you look at the nice colorful one in orange, that represents it.
Are you combining the 609 and the
And
380?
380, yes. Yes,
Wow.
609 plus 380,
So is that going to remain a 1-bedroom?
yes.
What's in the 609 now?
It's it's not utilized, it's the other empty space.
I see. Okay. I think you had indicated you had some other plans or drawings you wanted to
what I-
share. What was the significance of those?
Probably none, but if, I just figured, to be accurate. So the second floor, which is remaining unchanged, that one, let me find that paper here. Okay, well, I already went ahead and thrown that away. But it's showing, it was, I believe, in purple, and it was showing the first floor tenant that's in the front has the 2 bedrooms upstairs. It was showing it all the way here, and it's actually in the middle. There is, you could see probably in the photo there, there is no second story. So I just put these lines through it to show. It's just
I see, okay.
Meaning it's not that large upstairs for the existing first floor unit. Just
So,
accuracy, but it's probably really not germane to what we're doing.
all right, so I'll make the suggestion, we probably don't need to have that distributed,
Okay.
okay? And so the 609, 380 are added together, and that's the vacant space you're trying to create the housing space for residential.
Correct.
Okay. All right,
Mr. Chair, may I ask a follow-up question?
you may, Mr. Donlin.
What do you have on property as it sits now, assuming that you're not moving anything in the footprint as proposed? What is the parking situation there currently?
There's 15 parking spaces.
15?
The picture that's up on the big screen shows the staircase in the back corner. What does that staircase go to?
That brings you, as soon as you go up, it's a very hard left, there's the door. That brings you to the second floor residential unit, which you see is the full dormer in the front. It's that whole length is the second floor.
Is
I'm sorry,
that,
is the second floor, second residential unit. That's their entrance. And on the opposite side of that same plane from the second floor is their egress.
say that one again?
So the staircase that you see
Yep.
there, that's what I call the backyard. If you walked along the backyard, same wall, there's also the secondary egress out the back. You can't see it in the
Okay.
picture.
For
But
that same unit?
For that same second floor residential unit, yes.
So that ramp or staircase that we're looking at, it
a
almost looks like
staircase.
it's probably a ramp.
No, it's a staircase. I know it looks deceiving. I think there's something in front of it. It's probably like 7, 8 steps, then a landing, and then a full staircase internal inside the building.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. That doesn't ascend all the way to the second floor outside. It
Nope, right
turns-
on that
Got it.
corner is the door. So you just have a landing and the door swings in and you have a full staircase that goes up.
Okay. All righty. Anybody have any follow-up? Mr. Dragani? Hang on, Mr. Tripp.
I don't know.
All right, very good. Mr. Tripp?
I'm interested in what the first floor residential units are going to look like. I believe you have a paper that's titled 16 Crystal Avenue, first floor.
Yes.
Now, there's a purple square.
Yes.
Now, is that part of the residential
Yes,
unit?
that's the commercial unit now that we're looking to make residential. Correct.
Right, so that will be a residential unit number 1,
Correct.
all right? And then you have 2 other little squares,
The orange.
the orange, yeah. Now, that'll be residential unit number 2.
Correct. Those are the 2 commercial looking to convert. Correct.
And then you have a rectangle, which is pink.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what will that be?
That's the existing, that's existing 2-bedroom residential,
No, that's on,
downstairs and upstairs. It's the front, the old farmhouse. So that is existing. It has a
oh,
tenant
all
that's
right, so
been there.
that explains my confusion, because
That's the
I had
existing
assumed
first
that the
floor.
residentials were all on the second floor.
No, that's why I was telling you that that's been, at least for 10 years, that tenant has been there.
Yeah.
And that is downstairs, your classic living room, kitchen, staircase inside, and then the 2 bedrooms and the bathroom upstairs. So it's first and second floor. That's why pink should match with the pink on the second floor.
All right,
That's hers.
that's why it says residential unit number 1.
Correct.
Ah,
I'm no architect.
so, yeah,
And it's been like that since 2014, as far as I can see in the records. First floor.
well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Yeah, one thing, I
Burgess.
overheard part of something from, that Mr. Dolan had said about the parking. How many parking spaces are there?
15 parking spaces.
Okay.
Yep.
And, okay.
Everybody all set? All right, Mr. Wentworth, have you heard anything that you want to interject, or?
The parking is more than adequate. It's
Yep.
2 per bedroom, and you've got 15.
Okay, very good. If there's no other questions, we'll make a call to the public and look for some input there. We have some phone numbers that are going to be posted up on the screen. Mr. Corbett can read those for the record if you'd like.
If anybody who wishes to dial in, you're going to dial 646-558-8656. Your meeting ID is 323-909-140. And once in, you'll press star 9 to raise your hand. If you're having any technical issues, please dial 603-845-5585, and someone will help you.
Very good, thanks, Mr. Corbett. So that phone number is for remote folks that wish to speak on this matter. And in regards to the first call to the public, which would be anybody who wishes to speak in support of this application, this would be your opportunity to come forward, or as Mr. Corbett has given direction to press star 9, and you will be recognized and brought into the meeting. Seeing no one rise in the room here for that, anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to this matter, this would be your call and your opportunity to be heard remotely as well as within the room. You see anybody out there gesturing to get in, Mr. Preventure?
Seeing no one rise, Mr. Chair.
All right, very good. And seeing no one rise here in the room, we'll presume that we've met the statutes for public input. And if there are no other questions and no other input from the applicant, we can go into deliberation.
I'll make the motion to go into deliberative session.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Mr. Tripp,
I have a couple more questions.
hold that motion if you could withdraw, if you would. Mr.
Rescind my motion to go into
Very
deliberative.
good. We'll be sure to come back to you when we're ready.
Okay, doke.
Thank you. Mr. Tripp?
All right, so you had mentioned that the first commercial unit was the Halco, and that hasn't been occupied for many years,
6 years, correct.
6 years. Now, the second commercial unit,
Yes.
now, is that occupied?
That is partially occupied, so that is the voice studio. And if you look back on my colorful drawing, I got that orange polka dotted line, and that shows which is the, the inside here area. So going back, for however long, the tenant had told me that she was able to use just that small space, and it's pretty much an extension. The woman who lives in the residential unit that's downstairs and upstairs, that's by appointment only, voice lessons that she does and musical instrument lessons. So it's like I don't know, I'd hate to say it's an in-home business because it's not. It's a separate commercial space. So what happened was the gentleman who owned Halco cordoned off a small area of that back space so that she could be, he could be renting something. But the rest is completely empty and, not being used.
So
she's only
she would
using a small
continue to
portion.
use that space for voice lessons and things?
I'm sorry?
So the person that is utilizing that space as a commercial entity,
Yes.
she would continue to utilize that space as commercial?
Till April. She has a lease until April, and that gives her time to look for another space because using just a very small fraction of the entire space is, just does not make sense. The rest is all functionally obsolete in the back, and she's not interested in the entire space either. And as she had said, if I wasn't living here, I would never be using this space. So it's because I live here, it's convenient for her. And so she would not be seeking that space. It's by appointment only lessons.
So after April, that
Yes.
space would become part of the
Yes,
first floor residential?
exactly, of those
Oh.
2 squares, yep.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Just to piggyback off that question, has the voice studio expressed an interest in extending or vacating, or is that just the assumption based off the future plans?
Yeah, she does not have any interest in enlarging any more than what she has there for that small, like 12 by 12 area
I'm sorry, I meant the, extending the lease.
for the voice studio.
Yes.
No, because the way that if she would extend the lease, it would be for the entire space. So we're not interested in just a 12 by 12 section of the entire space. That would not make sense. The rest would just be going empty.
Okay.
So,
All right. Are you satisfied, Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Thank you.
All right, very good. Mr. Burgess, back to you.
I make the motion to go into deliberative session.
Second by
I'll second it.
Mrs. Moran will second that. Thank you. All in favor of deliberation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we are in deliberation. Anybody wish to lead off? And anybody have any thoughts on the application itself reflectively?
Maybe, excuse me, I've got to clear my throat. Well, a former member of this board once said, we're not growing any more commercial space. And if we eliminate this commercial part of the business, then we're reducing the amount of, commercial building that we can have, businesses that we can have in town.
Okay. Mrs. Moran, you have any thoughts there?
Mine are similar to Mr. Burgess, where it's already somewhat occupied and no effort really has been put in. It's hard to see.
It's hard to justify and understand the full hardship.
Correct.
Mr. Tripp?
I would have to agree that, even though the property has been vacant for some time, that, it doesn't appear that there's been any effort to see if there's any business that would be interested in occupying it. So, that, once again, it shows it's not much of a hardship.
Okay. Mr. Corbett?
It's a tough one, and you look at it, you don't like to see an empty, vacant commercial lot for years on end. I think I remember when I first moved here, a lot of the downtown, had that, just had the empty signs in the windows, and it just made it look downtrodden. But this one, to be very honest, I didn't realize Halco was no longer in business. I haven't seen a for lease sign, I haven't seen a rent sign or anything up in 5 years. So, I can understand, I'm sure he's had a tough time renting, but I also, the effort word I heard earlier, I haven't necessarily seen it, but that's no disrespect to the current owners either, with that statement. But what I also have it tough is there is currently, a commercial use in there, being that it's currently occupied, and, now to get rid of an active commercial use to turn it, to more non-conforming, I have a tough time with. I'd like to see, I think probably like to see what the town could do as far as aiding to get more commercial use in there, and possibly hearing this again in the future, to see if there is actually a hardship. But right now, I have a tough time getting rid of commercial space for residential.
Yeah, I think for myself, I'm viewing this, and the reality is that if you go into an endeavor such as this, but you have not tested to establish that there's a hardship, it's hard to fall into that. The question becomes, if you know that there's a hardship, how do you purchase in such an endeavor, knowing that that hardship exists with the intention that you're going to change the ordinances? Time tested, in my mind, means that you have come in and you've worked through that endeavor, and it's fallen short. We've had a similar case, I think it was on the corner of Broadway and Fordway extension, or Ford Way itself, where the applicants purchased the property that was a residential with a rental property on it, but wanted to convert in the same way as you did. And they have established a business inside of that. The board had denied that. And I see this in that similar circumstance, that to break into an endeavor such as this and try to orchestrate one's wishes over the ordinances and purchase that property with that intention, I find that that hardship becomes self-imposed. And so I don't necessarily agree with that on that point. Some of the other arguments I can align with, however, as I described in some of the points that were presented, the regional issue is not the Derry town's issue in what we're trying to establish and keep working towards. That's my feeling on this as well. Are there any, let's look at structuring the motion that we have here, which is always structured in the affirmative, but we do have the subject to obtaining all state and town permits and inspections. Are there any other conditions the sitting members for this case would like to establish as a condition for this motion, or does that suffice?
I thought it was interesting on the staff report that it said that a meeting with the plan director might be required. It would basically be up to the planning board director. Would that need to come in, or would that be as part of obtaining all state and town permits and inspections?
I would consider that to be part of all state. Let's add that to this just as a in case, because it could, that's kind of ambiguous, but may be subject. This will be condition 2. Mrs. Moran may be subject to planning review. How's that?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Corbett. Anything else from anyone? All right. Mr. Corbett adds a second condition to the motion, Ms. Peoples. And therefore, I think we have a motion to read, but we need to come out of deliberative first. Could I have that motion, please?
I'll make that motion to come out.
Mr. Corbett has the motion
second
to
it.
exit. I'll give that to Mr. Tripp. I could see his effort there. Mr. Tripp, you want to make that official?
I'll second it.
Very good, thank you. Seconded by Mr. Tripp. All in favor of coming out of deliberation, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Mrs. Moran, you have a motion to read.
I do, thank you. I make a motion on case number 24-129 for Amber Ragnason, owner, Raymond and Derry LLC, to grant a variance to the terms of Article 6, Section 165-33.b.5 and Section 165-33.b.5.b.III of the Town of Derry zoning ordinance to allow the conversion of the property from 2 residential and 2 commercial units to 4 residential units. Parcel ID 30095, zoned industrial CBD. We have 2 conditions. The first one is subject to obtaining all state and town permits and inspections. 2, subject to planning review. And that concludes the reading of the motion. I need a second.
Second.
Just a quick amend. I think it's maybe subject to, just to clarify on number 2.
Number 2 may be subject to planning review.
Thank you, Mr. Corbett.
Thank you.
All right, that motion's on the floor.
Mr. Tripp,
Mr. Tripp has the motion.
I'll second.
Second.
Mr. Corbett seconds. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Losing my own place here. All right, so that motion's on the floor. Now is the finding of facts. Mr. Corbett?
Finding a fact for case 24-129, the board found that the property is located in the central business district, which allows multifamily use, but only in conjunction with permitted non-residential units. This proposal would eliminate the commercial/mixed use of the building by conversion to all residential use. This proposal will create additional residential units on the first floor, which is prohibited, requiring a variance from this section of the ordinance. The board also includes all facts found in the meeting minutes for this application and incorporates all meeting minutes into its finding of facts and decisions. Does anybody have anything to add?
Seeing no gestures there, very good. All in favor of moving the motion for a vote, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Mr. Corbett?
I unfortunately am going to vote no at this time. I don't see the hardship. However, it is something I would possibly weigh in the future.
Very good. Mrs. Moran?
Chair, I'm also going to vote no. I feel the spirit of the ordinance is not being observed, and I feel it will adversely impact the goal and objectives that the town has set forth, and granting the variance will not have a positive impact in the community.
Very good. Thank you, Mrs. Moran. Mr. Tripp?
I'm going to vote no. Once again, the hardship appears to me to be self-imposed.
Very good. Mr. Burgess?
Mr. Bird, I think the variance to make this would be in contrary to the public interest and the spirit of the ordinance, since we're trying to keep some commercial business in town.
All right, that's a no for you.
Yes,
All right,
that's right.
And the chair will make that a unanimous no by a vote of 5-0. Mr. Ragnarsson, I'm sorry, butcher your name. Your application's been denied by a vote of 5-0. Anybody aggrieved by this decision has 30 days to ask this board for reconsideration. And after that, recourse would be to Superior Court or the Housing Appeals Board. Okay? Thank you. All righty, and next up, that 24-130 has been tabled to the next board meeting on the 17th of September. Do we have approval of minutes? We have amendments were submitted for September 5th. Did everybody submit those, and are they ready to approve those minutes? All right.
I have no changes.
All right, if we could have a motion to approve those minutes as amended.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve September 9th meeting minutes as amended.
September 5th.
September 5th, sorry.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Motion made by Ms. Moran. Second, please.
Second.
I'll second.
Mr. Corbett has a second on that. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. The September 5th, Ms. Peoples, approved as amended. September 19th minutes, anybody have any changes? Did they submit them? Are they all set? Anybody have any objections on those minutes? Hearing none, we'll have a motion then to accept those minutes as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Tripp has that.
I'll second.
Mr. Corbett has a second. Ms. Peoples is accepting those minutes as presented. Very good. Do we have any cases for the next meeting other than the one postponed?
Yes, we do.
We do. How many?
I believe two that are being semi-combined into one, and one other.
Okay, very good. Could be a busy evening. Anybody have anything to add before we adjourn?
I will not be here 12/5, so I'm going to start telling you now.
Crystal's here 12:05, so load it up.
Well, between me forgetting and then him forgetting, I told him.
December 5th.
All right, well, thank you for the advance notice on that, 3 months ahead of time, but anybody else? Ms. Dietzel?
Mr. Chair, I would just like to take a moment to welcome our newest member, Jason Dragani. He'll be an alternate member of this board, and we're very pleased to have him with us.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Dietzel.
Thank you.
And I voice that as well. Thank you, Mr. Dragani, for signing up and being a volunteer. The fun's just beginning for you, sir.
We don't get paid.
No, we do not get paid, no. And we have to pay for our car registrations just like the rest of the Americans. Other than that.
Taxes and everything else. We don't get a break on taxes either.
we can have a motion to adjourn if somebody would like to do that. All right, Mr.
Can I
Corbett?
say one second? I've got, I know you did. Could you take the motion back just for a second?
Second.
Just,
Mr. Corbett will suspend his motion temporarily.
this has
So
nothing.
we'll lose some
almost nothing.
oxygen out of the room. Mr. Burgess, you have the floor.
There was, I got something on Facebook that they were talking about bringing businesses to town and not so many banks and so on and so forth. And I just wanted to let everybody know that the town of Derry does not build anything that's not a school or a public building. All the rest of the stuff is when people come to us and ask us, buy a piece of property from someone, and then they build whatever they're gonna build. If they're gonna build a bank, well, it's a tax property. We get taxes. If we're not getting taxes, then, that place is vacant. So I just want to straighten some people, maybe who are listening to us.
So it's safe to say, Mr. Burgess, those are also private sales for the most part?
Yep, they're all private sales. We're not selling them, most properties.
You're not holding out on a Target or a Hobby Lobby? Is it so you're not holding out on Target or Hobby
Oh, we're not
Lobby?
I wish we could, I'd like to have a Golden Corral downtown, but what the heck, right? We can only take the people who are buying private property have the right to do whatever the heck they want to if it's within the law and within the zoning and the planning parts. So,
All right.
just want to get that straight out there.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Burgess, for verifying the town does not sublease to banks. Got it. Okay, if nothing else, we take that motion that Mr. Corbett initiated to adjourn. I just need a second.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Burgess has a second, and then we need a gavel. And this, all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, all.